Good morning. Welcome to Money and Mindset with the Doctors. I'm Dr. Stephanie Ardrey. This is Dr. Thyonne Gordon. I'm known as Dr. Money, and she is Story Genius. Hey, good morning, Dr. TG. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Dr. Money?
I'm good. I'm good. Pulled another late nighter, grinding as we do. So just in it and at it.
That's what happens when you're trying to make all the money, right? When you're putting
Oh,
all this together.
absolutely, absolutely. They always say, be careful what you ask for. You may start to get it. I count it as gratitude and grace. It's just wonderful. Or I guess it's kind of amazing. I was thinking, wow, it's like you do all the work up front and hopefully you begin to see the manifestation. And then as it happens that you're ready, you can brace yourself for it.
People don't understand how much work you have to do up front too. It requires so much in terms of the hours that you put in. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell, The Outliers, and it talks about the number of hours that you put in when something will finally click. And what happens today, a lot of people see someone and they think it's an overnight success, but these are people who have been practicing what their work is since they've been born almost. Once they figure out what their purpose is, they start doing it and diving into it. And then something clicks. So it's not usually an overnight success. You may have some successes along the way, but when you get to that momentum point that pushes you over, where your mindset, your money is matching, that has required a lot of work.
Definitely. We talk about the 10,000 hour investment. It takes a minimum of 10,000 hours to become an expert or to perfect whatever it is you're up to. And I remember thinking about that, starting the stopwatch all over again after finishing the doctorate and saying, okay, I'm gonna go to law school. And it's like, oh man, another start all over with another 10,000 hours of starting from the bottom and working your way up. But it is just that if you want to get to an outcome, it's buckling down and focusing on it and grinding it out.
But the key is you're really not starting from the bottom because you have the educational layers. So you understand already how to study, how to go through the process, and how to learn what you need to learn. So you really have already built in those hours. And now you're just adding on to it. So you're taking yourself to another level. You're not really starting from the bottom. You really aren't, because you already have the educational hours and that expertise in how to study and how to get something completed. That's under your belt. So that's really what you're doing. The rest of the learning, that's like par for the course. But you already know the other part. You're an expert in terms of educational endeavors.
Oh, good. I guess so. I guess, yeah, by the time you get through a doctoral program, you better be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've done the coursework, you've done research. If you've had to do a dissertation, you've had to present and defend your dissertation. So definitely they take you through the paces for you to feel comfortable at the outcome. Yeah, absolutely. I guess I was equating to going into the weeds of the law, right? It's one thing to deal with law professionally, and I've been involved with legal transactions over the course of my professional career, but now getting into the weeds, the nitty gritty of the why. That you go like, this is not even practical. Like I was struggling with we had law school residency this past weekend, and I was struggling with a scenario, a hypo, because they're talking about, oh, these two people own a building and one person signed a mortgage, and then now how is the mortgager going to get them? And I'm like, well, if two people own a building, first of all, one person can't sign the mortgage so that part just never happened. So they're like, they didn't ask you to know, like I'm not supposed to know that. It's like, but that's common knowledge. No, it's not common knowledge. So there you have it. So
Correct. So there are things that you already know that make you an expert in what you do. So you're already going to be ahead of the curve on that. You're not starting from the bottom when you have those. You don't have to live another lifetime. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I'm so excited about today because we have a fabulous guest. Miss Anna Jackson is joining us today. I had the opportunity to get and read her book, Faith, guts, and action. And she says it's a step-by-step guide to business success. And she is absolutely correct. She has a lot of gems in the book, and I really enjoyed reading it. So before we bring her on, I want to give a brief overview, because Anna's sharing her journey of how she and her family built a business from scratch, the challenges that she faced, the sheer determination that she had to have to overcome, and the fact that she built a hugely successful company. And then, as life would have it, had to reset and do it again. So with that, we're going to bring Anna into the conversation.
Yay, Anna. Yay.
Hey, hey there. How are you?
Great. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I have to tell you, I really enjoyed going through your book. I love the way your tone is as if you're speaking to a girlfriend and you're just explaining the story. And there are points where, I teared up because I'm like, oh yeah, that, still raw.
Yeah.
I know that. And then there were a couple chuckles and I said, know that. And then just kind of remembering some of the states that you go through in building a business. So, what made you write the book?
Well, I felt it was important because of the fact so many people, would always approach me and ask me, why did I get started? How did you get started? And then, wanting to help them, but to also leave something for my children and my grandchildren to remember and to know. It just kind of reminds me of how my son told me once, as he had, grown up, he says, Mom, remember how you told me you started with nothing, and there was a time that I had like a challenge that I was, overthinking something. And he made me he brought it back to me. And actually in the book, it kind of goes into it. But yeah, it was, it's to remind not only myself, but to remind my family and anybody that I know that you can do this in spite of who you are, in spite of where you come from, what your background is, just knowing that there is possibility. If I can do it, you can do it too.
Anna, tell us a little bit about your journey, about where you come from and what you're doing now.
Well, to start off, I always, tell everybody that I really had no idea that I would be doing what I'm doing now. And growing up, I never thought in terms of going to beauty school, never thought about doing hair, never. I mean, to tell you the truth, I didn't have any clue as to where I was going. And I was the shy kid in school that would never raise my hand, would never ask any questions. I was always the person that would sit back and just hope and pray things would work out. And I'm just being honest. I had no idea. But yet I've worked with people all over the world, helping them to be able to build their business. Now, this happened when I got married. My husband and I had decided we were going to start our own business. And we didn't know what it was going to be, but I was going to beauty school at the time. A friend of mine was telling me that she had gone to beauty school. She got her license and she can go do hair all over the world. And I'm thinking, what? And she says, yes, I'm a cosmetologist. And I'm like, what is a cosmetologist? And she says, it's a person that does hair. She says, I can go anywhere. And then I thought to myself, because to tell you the truth, I was working in the kitchen at the time. I was working at the hospital, Ford Hospital. I was the tray girl. I would take trays to the patients' rooms. And suddenly I didn't feel so successful. Although I thought that this was successful because I had got my own little kitchen. I got promoted. I was in the nourishment kitchen where I was making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the patients. And I enjoyed that. And when she told me she got her license and now she can do this and all the money that she can make, I said, did you have to have any skills in that? Did you have to be talented already? She says, no, when you go to beauty school, they teach you it. And I thought, wow. And, it goes to show you that you don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know what's going to go. And I had a child and I was pregnant at the time I talked to her about this. And 2 weeks later, I enrolled in beauty school. And being in beauty school, I had become obsessed with it. Obsessed with it to the point where I wanted to learn everything about it. I wanted to know everything about it. What can I, how much can I do? I got in every competition, won every competition I got in. When I say I got obsessed with it, eat, sleep, drink it. If I see you, I'm thinking, what can I do your hair? Can I do your hair? That was my thought, and hair was my first love. And so my husband and I went to visit some friends one day, and the wife says, Anna, come around the back. And I'm like, go around back. She said, yeah, come around the back door. And I came to the back, and I saw that they were barbecuing outside because I hope you got some time on here. But they were barbecuing outside. Well, just cut me off whenever you need me to. But they were barbecuing outside because their utilities were turned off on the inside. And I'm thinking, what? They're barbecuing outside. And I knew they were on welfare, okay? It was common. I knew they were on welfare. And I'm thinking, why are the utilities turned off? Then she runs to me. She says, Anna, I just opened my business. I just opened it. I'm saying, you did what? She said, I just opened my business. And she was so excited. Now, mind you, I knew nobody that owned their own business. Nobody. And I'm thinking, you just own your own business. I couldn't sleep that night for thinking about how did she open the business? And I know they're on welfare. And I know that she don't have no utilities on in the house. How did she do this? So what I realized is that I judged her based on what I saw. But this woman had the courage and the confidence to go out and start her own business. And only thing I thought about is, how can I do that? Because I remember when I was on welfare, I was thinking, when I was even in the shelter, because I lived in the shelter, how did she do that? I need to figure out, what can we do? And I came up with it. We're going to open a salon.
And so I'll interject right there, Anna, because I remember that part of the story. And then you and your husband, but you had an amazing opportunity to meet someone who became really instrumental. You met a woman. So two things. One, you were shaken to your core about, oh my goodness, here's somebody that I think looks like she's in a similar place, or I can relate to her place, but she started a business. So that kind of speaks to mindset, because you were unsettled that night. But then what was the mindset that was required to do something about being unsettled? And then what happened next?
I couldn't shake it, first of all. Like you said, I couldn't shake it. I woke up in the middle of the night and I told my husband, I got it. We're going to open up a salon. I got it. I just couldn't, because I can remember thinking when we were on welfare, how I was treated at that moment. I felt like I was numb, after speaking with my worker one day. I just felt like, I was at the lowest point in my life. I felt like, not being on welfare, because I appreciated having something like that in place. But I felt that this was somebody that was not treating me like I was a person. So I felt that we got to do something. We got to start our own business. I don't know what it's going to be, but we need to start our own business. I need to, because I just didn't feel comfortable in that. If you do this, you can't do that. If you do this, you can't do that. I didn't like being limited in what I could do. And that was the trigger that drove me to say, we've got to start our own business. So my husband,
it must have taken a lot of faith to walk into that as well, which is part of the title of your book, in terms of the faith, the guts, and what it takes
and my why,
to get your mindset to that point. Talk a little bit about, because a lot of people would have looked at the situation and said, wow, we're doomed, and would have just kind of shut it down. Like, no guts, no glory. They wouldn't have gone that direction. It would have been, wow, I can see we're going on a downward trajectory, and that's where we're headed. And they would have just let it go. What does it take to get that determination, to get that yearning in the belly?
My why. I didn't like what it felt like, being told what I can and cannot do, being told that I'm limited in what I can earn, being treated a certain way. I just didn't like that feeling. Call me a control freak, but I just wanted to control me. And my husband had gotten laid off from his job. I had my job. I lost my job. So therefore, we both were in a situation that I'm thinking, what are we going to do? I don't want this to ever happen again. I don't want to feel like this again. So when I saw this girl, it made me think, wow, that was always my dream. Or at least I thought about it for a moment. But when my husband went back to work, life got back to normal. I forgot about my dream, and I forgot about the fact that I thought about starting a business. But when I ran into this girl and she told me this, it just brought it back up. And it was like, wow, it could happen again. The inevitable, what if that happens again? We need to start something. But yeah, I ran into this woman that told me, her name was Mary James. And she said, Anna, you need to open up a school. Now, all I can tell you is that was so far away from my mind, I can't begin to tell you. A school? That's just like telling me you should be a doctor tomorrow. I told her every reason why I did not qualify for something of that magnitude. And she said, stop it. And I said, no, you don't understand. I barely graduated from high school. There's no way I could do anything like this. And she's like, Anna, she says, I ran one of the top schools in the state. She says, God doesn't owe me anything. The only way I can see success again is through the eyes of somebody else. And if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach you. This is a woman that I didn't know from nowhere, but for someone to come into your life and tell you that I can teach you something, I never heard that.
So mentorship was important to you.
It was the ultimate. Without having mentorship, having a coach, somebody to take you, walk you through it. It's one thing for people to say something. It's another thing for you to feel it. The experience will far outweigh any college degree. I'm sorry, it does. If someone takes you by the hand and give you their experience, and they take you through those pitfalls that you would have made on your own. I mean, it's one thing to say, I'm going to read a book and learn it. I can read how to swim, but if you throw me in the water, that doesn't mean I can do it. So I'm just saying, having a mentor, having a coach, having someone to take you by the hand, I would weigh that heavier than I could weigh anything, because the experience is what counts.
Well, the other thing is you listen to the person. I mean, even though you put the obstacles up in the beginning saying, not me, not me, not me. Eventually you said, okay, if it's going to be me, I guess I'm going to have to follow you.
That's right.
So talk about what it's like to have to follow somebody
when
you don't even have that kind of faith in yourself.
I'm going to tell you, I borrowed her belief. I didn't have the faith in myself. I didn't know what I could do. But this is somebody that knew what I was capable of doing through her own experiences. This is somebody that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She could place me in places that I would have never gotten to as a mentor. You, as a mentor, you, Dr. Thyonne, Dr. Stephanie, you have experience. You have things that people wouldn't even imagine. You can go indoors because of your experience, because of your context, because of your things. Those are the things she was able to impart in me. These people that I met, I could not have met them with the same degree of respect of them to me, just meeting me for the first time. When she took me to Lansing and she told me, I'm going to introduce you to some women that I think you need to know. Nobody's ever called me Miss Jackson until she called me that in front of these people. And she says, listen, Miss Thyonne, Miss Stephanie, I want you to meet Mrs. Jackson. Mrs. Jackson is getting ready to open up a school. And I'm thinking, Miss Jackson. I felt like I was somebody, which is not what I felt before. You know what I'm saying? I didn't, it's like you put on the costume and now you become it. Right. You become it. She made me what I was. She introduced me to context. She would call me when I'm ready to fall to my knees. She was there to pick me back up because she understood those moments. And I'm going to tell you, most of the time we don't realize it, that we don't realize when we need somebody, because sometimes we think we can do it on our own. There are some parts of it that you can do on your own. And don't get me wrong. Yes, the parts that you can do on your own is like, look it up, go to Google, go to YouTube, all the answers are always here. I'm telling you, the answers to any, matter of fact, it's easier today than it was back when I started, because we got YouTube, you got books, you got lectures, you got conferences, you got all types of information that's there for you. But the disconnect is here. This is the disconnect. This is what you need a mentor for. If you don't need it for anything else, you need that mentor to be able to guide you. When you think you're going right, they're going to tell you to go left. So basically being able to, I was so afraid that Miss James would leave me. I was willing to do anything she told me. And you know what she told me after I became a success? She says, Anna, I gave this information to many people, but not everybody picked it up. Yeah. Not everybody was willing to do what you were willing to do. She says, she says, it's been many people that's come into my life that I've tried to help and I've reached out to, and they've never come back the way you have. And I'm saying that's the power in doing what your mentor tells you to do. Don't go left. If they say don't go left, don't go right. I stayed on track. It's like Miss James came in the building and they told me Miss James is here. I'm like, is it clean? Did we do so-and-so? Is everything up? I catered to whatever she told me. And all I can say is I owe this lady my life.
Okay, but that again is about mindset, and that is about gratitude, because you appreciated the fact that this person was sowing into your life. Listen, a long career of both consulting and working with businesses, and I remember I've had clients that would rather do wrong than to do right, to accept your advice that they're paying you for. Because, I had a person tell me that they would rather make the mistakes on their own rather than have someone give them the guidance to avoid. And I was stunned, because not only was the person an attorney, but he had taken friends and family money, and these friends and family really thought that he was going to make it big and that they were going to live their retirements off of these funds. In fact, there was one of those investors that asked me to please coach him. And it was like, basic stuff that you're like, wait a minute, you're creating litigation risk here every day with these decisions, and these people thinking that you're about to make them rich. So have you had any encounters along your way? Because I know that you've paid it forward as a mentor as well.
Yes.
And when you think about that mindset or that willingness to be coachable and to invest in additional learning, growth, and development. We all, every day, I loved reading your book. Nuggets, it's reinforcement, right? Speak to that a little bit.
Well, you know what? Even the people that I coach, I can't, you can't plant those seeds in their head if they're not willing to accept them. The thing about it is, those that are, they're going to accept it. Oh. Those that are, like myself, they're going, and they have to be at a certain place in their life, mindset. Their why has to be strong enough. Like I said, I knew nobody else that was successful, but I knew that exists. I knew there are successful people out there, but this was one person that told me that she could take me to the mountaintop. I believed her. Now, maybe she could, or maybe she couldn't, but I knew she had more information than I did. I knew she had went to school longer than I did. I knew she had stuff that I couldn't, possibly have. My goal is, and what I've even told my people is, take what you can and then go to the next level, but at least get what you can. Miss James said so many people came to her just like me. They come to you, they ask you these questions, you give them the answers, and then they go somewhere else, or then they go ask somebody else, and then they go read another book, and then they listen to another lecture, and then they're hearing it over and over again. They become inundated with information overload, and then they become confused and shut down. The most important thing, you grab one person that's got the information, that's got everything you need, look up their credentials, see what they have. If their credentials say that, I've got this information, take it, and do something with it. But otherwise, we can sit back and we can make stories and excuses for not making success over and over again. And that's what happens. I listen to people all the time that have a story. They have an excuse. I say excuses and money don't mix. You're either going to do it or you ain't. You have to be willing. You have to be willing. And like I said, if you're thinking that I can go get a book, I can go listen to a tape. They don't call them tapes anymore, do they? What do they call it now?
An MP3 or a
Right.
download.
Right. I can give me a download. Yeah, you can get that. And the good thing about it is it's going to give you some good information. But you need somebody that's going to push you. If you've been saying this for a year, 2 years, 3 years, that I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and it hasn't happened, what is it costing you not to get where you need to go? What is it costing you to sit back and say, okay, I'm going to read this book and I'm going to be like this, but by the end of the year, you see you haven't done it. Are you still working that same job? Are you still struggling with whatever it is you're having? Are you still living where you're not comfortable at? Are you still driving the car that you wish you didn't have? And do you realize that with that skill you have, that if you had someone to be able to guide you and to be accountable to and to work with you on a consistent basis, do you realize that even if you got halfway there in half the time, that it'd be worth it and worth everything that you've done, everything that you've lost? Because and I look at it like this, every month that I go without getting to my goal, that's money I'm losing, Dr. Money. That's money I'm losing every year that I go without being able to put your children in the school you want to put them in. Every moment that you set aside to say, I'm going to wait, it's costing you. And think about, what is it costing you? Not money-wise, because it's costing you money-wise too, because of the fact you're losing the money that you could have moving forward. But what about the time? What about the time that you can't spend with your children next year? What about the time you can't have with your husband next year? What about that? You think about, what is it costing you not to have it? So if you don't have it and you keep going along this path, then you'll have the next 5 years what you had the last 5 years. So the idea of being able to find somebody that you can latch onto and say, listen, help me, take me where I need to go. Set out a plan, be accountable. Categorize that plan, break it up into months, make sure that you're accountable every month where something is going towards that plan. At the end of the year, talk with your mentor, talk with your coach, talk with whoever you have, and talk with them about where you are now. I promise you, in a year, you're going to be much better. You're going to look at it and you're going to be able to see it. Not only that, my coach was able to show me how my life could be better. You know, I mean, here's somebody, I went from being fired from my job. Well, not really fired, let go. My husband let go from his job, to living in a shelter, to living on welfare, to opening my own company, to earning my first million inside of the first 3 years of being in business. And this is a person that had a McDonald's personality. I was flipping burgers at a hospital, taking trays to patients. Not that that's a bad job, because I mean, I appreciate that even when I go to the hospital, somebody's there. But I'm just saying, I went from that to earning my first million because I was willing to listen. I was willing to be there. Now I'm going to tell you, Miss James didn't do the work for me.
Exactly.
So don't think that somebody going to do the work for me. She didn't do the work for me. There's times when I cried calling her, you know, but Miss James was my anchor. She was the one that rooted me. And, you know, it was so funny when I went to Africa to open the school there, and she tells me, she says, Anna, you've done something I've never done. I've always wanted to go to Africa. I've always wanted. That was my thing. But yet she's taught all over the world. But I told her, I said, you did go to Africa. You did go to Africa because of the fact that you brought me in. I'm a stem on your tree. You're the root.
Exactly.
And without you, I would not have gotten there. You have students out of Africa because of you. Yes. And I'm saying, people that have something inside of them, you've got something to give, you've got something to share with the world, but you still haven't put it out there yet. And you're still thinking, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Yeah, it's going to happen. It won't. I'm going to promise you, if you keep thinking like you're thinking, keep thinking a book is going to do it, keep thinking this, it's here. It's here. If you know you had that skill a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and you're still standing on, I'm going to do it, it's not going to happen. Get it together. Get you a mentor, get you a coach, get you somebody that will at least make you accountable to what you say you're going to do.
Anna, I love
it feels like, you know, feel your sermon. It's definitely connecting, but it makes me think too that sometimes people have other priorities. You know, I listen, sometimes you'll hear, oh, people talking about the social commentary, you know, or someone, they're so consumed by the trash, the junk on TV, that the idea of taking time aside to read a book that's going to contribute to their possibility, or to even reach out to identify who are the experts in a particular space. You know, whenever I look at a new sector, the first thing I do is try to understand the lay of the land in that particular space. Who's already occupying that space? Do they have a blog? What are they doing? Are they hosting a workshop? Who are they connected to? What are the other organizations? Before you know it, I remember when I started all over in real estate development, the major developers that owned properties, I started putting them in my phone book like I knew them, because I knew that I was going to meet them, right? Like I just put it, I started knowing everything about them. And it was a fun fact that I ended up, one of the developers that I wanted to meet was Caruso, who did the Grove and a bunch of other properties, but I knew everything about them. I knew everything about every developer, how they made their money within, 90 days of being in the business. Well, really before, because I had been researching them before I even made the leap into the business. But then later, so funny, Caruso was speaking. I went to go see him speak at UCLA. I was able to interact with him. And then we were locked in the elevator that broke together. So it's like, talk about being able to, really connect with someone. But because I was so prepared, I can have that elevator conversation and have it mean something, instead of just being standing there going, oh my God, I'm in this elevator with Caruso, this major developer. What do I do? I had a conversation. I had projects that I can relate to. I had some of his team I had worked with. I had something to cultivate a conversation. And
ladies, I was going to say, ladies, you both have brought up so many important points in terms of how to find a mentor. Some of what you're saying, Dr. Money, is being prepared. And when that opportunity comes your way, being able to speak to that person and understanding. I have my own Caruso story because I did philanthropy, and I was prepared when I got to speak with Mr. Caruso as well, because I knew he was also a philanthropist, not just a real estate person. So great story with that. Being prepared, finding that person, doing that homework. And then Anna, when you talk, your book is all about faith, guts, and action. And everything you said speaks to that book. I mean, having the faith to walk into something that you're like, little old me, why me? Why me? And finally getting the guts to say, okay, if this person says they're going to walk me through it, I don't have the belief, but I can borrow her belief. I'm just going to lean on somebody else's belief right now. That I love that. Borrow a belief. If you don't have it in you to believe in yourself, borrow somebody else's belief in you for a moment. And then the last thing you talked about is Ms. James didn't do the work for you.
No.
Action. So you had that faith, you had the guts to go ahead and try it and borrow her belief, but then you had to take action. You had to do the work.
Yeah.
And we know how to do the work. The work is within us. I mean, I want to say good morning to Sharon. She just said, morning, ladies. Sharon is a mentor and has been mentored. She does music. And you go to somebody like Sharon Harris and you are going to learn music. And at the same time, she's now building networks, going into her new iteration of herself and looking for guides to help her with this iteration. So finding that guide, having that mentor, having the faith, getting your guts together when you really don't have the guts, when you're really like, I'm really scared, borrowing somebody else's. I like that. And then taking action. So thank you so much for bringing those three things into this space. Let's talk a little bit about how we can get that book, Faith, Guts, and Action, to move us forward.
Okay. They can order that book. They can go on our website, I Lead Mastery, ILEADMASTERY.com, or they can go there to order it, or they can go to ILeadMastery.com. That's where they can order the book from. Yep.
Perfect. iLeadMastery.com. And Anna, are you coaching or helping other people who are getting into the beauty business or anything like that?
Yes, I am. I am coaching. I do coach and mentor other people. I do. I've been in the business since '88, actually.
Wow.
88. So it's been over 30 something years that I've been working in this. So and then coaching and mentoring and
in business, in how to start a successful business, obviously. So people out there, I hear people say all the time, I don't know how to find a mentor. Nobody's helping me. Do your research. Find people. You can find people, look them up, write them letters, send them emails. Nowadays, it's a lot easier. I used to actually write letters and put them in the mail. And I actually still do because I think it's a lost art. But
and they can reach out to me at Anna Jackson at iLeadMastery.com too.
Anna Jackson at iLeadMastery.com. You heard it here. Have the faith. Get your guts together. You got to have some strength. If you don't have it, borrow somebody else's. They can, I love borrow beliefs. I like that. And then take some action. Dr. Money, you want to take us out of here?
TG, I think you took us out of here. That was a perfect wrap up. I don't want to mess with it. I think it's fabulous. I just want to thank you so much, Anna, for joining us. Again, TG, thank you for always recapping and putting it in a nice little bow. And for everyone tuning in today, remember, mark your calendar. We'll be back next Tuesday, 9 a.m., same time, with more money and mindset with the doctor. So outside of that, guys, have a great week, and we'll be back next week.
Have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you.